see the path to the championship. I can see it.
The Coca-Cola 600 belongs to Ryan Blaney.
Blaney's learned how to win over the last couple of months.
Blaney! Harmon! They spin behind him! It's going to be Blaney!
We're going to win this thing.
Ryan Blaney is going to win his way into the championship for...
You have to run a perfect race to get it.
Ryan Blaney is a NASCAR Cup Series champion!
What an unbelievable year. What an unbelievable playoffs for us.
This is the Team Blaney Podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 145 of the Team Blaney Podcast. My name is Adam Rogers, and alongside me is co-host Steve Mez. This podcast is brought to you by fans for fans. Steve and I have been following drivers of the Blaney racing family for 2 decades, and Team Blaney itself launched on social media in 2014. Each weekly episode of the show offers an in-depth analysis of Ryan Blaney's latest NASCAR Cup Series race, plus news, notes, and special guest interviews all throughout the year. This week, we break down Team 12's run in the Enjoy Illinois 300 at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Steve, welcome back to another episode of the Team Blaney Podcast, and I am a little bit at a loss for words on this episode. We'll have a little bit of positivity to talk about when it comes to some things happening on the dirt tracks, but I have to admit. So last week I had mentioned on our show that because of what happened during the 2022 season and everything, that nothing that happens going forward would faze me. And immediately within 1 week, I have to eat those words because I just don't know what to say about this weekend at Gateway. Everything lined up to be an amazing weekend, amazing race for the 12 team, amazing finish, and just kind of feel like my heart's been ripped out. And I'm glad that we get to sit down 24 hours later, pretty much, as we're recording this and kind of just talk through what happened and find a way forward, as I'm sure that the team is going to do, and try to find some positives along the way. And I'm glad you're here to do that with me. So thanks for agreeing to come on for this one. I know this might be a tough one, but I feel like you've taken things a little bit better than I have, after totally saying nothing bothers me anymore. But here we are.
Sometimes I surprise myself really with the optimism. I mean, I know you've said that the power of positivity that I have, but the truth is there are some good things to pull from it. And I don't want to get into total discussion on what happened until we get to that part of the race. But the reality is you got to do a couple things. In any sports, you have to shoot your shot. Okay. I said this a couple times. I've sent it to people in text. I put it online already, but that's the thing, is you shoot your shot. And the other one is the great Gretzky saying that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So what we did, or what we saw over the weekend, was we saw everybody shoot their shot. Crew chief, pit crew, driver, and they did everything they could to win a race. And what ends up happening, the end result is definitely not what you want. Like he had said, it stings a little bit. But reality is you still have to be the leader for that to happen to you. I said that to somebody online today, and he said that's a good thought, and that's the truth. It's like cars run out of gas all the time. Things like this happen all the time, but how often do they happen to the leader of a race? You don't hear about the 25th place guy who loses a lap at the end of the race and finishes 32nd or whatever. TV doesn't cover that. It happens. It happens sometimes every other weekend, but you don't hear about it. And it only happens to the leader every once in a great while, but it does happen. We've seen races in our generation and years past where there's been a guy out there and he made a move, and it was a little more apparent, it seemed like, in some of those situations where they knew it was going to be close and they were kind of paying attention to it. But as we'll discuss later on, there are some factors that come into play that have nothing to do with the pit crew or the crew chief either. And they may be factors that, just didn't get factored in. And I just got done listening to Stacking Pennies, and he threw some terms out there. You guys definitely need to listen to Stacking Pennies. It's like 20 minutes to a half hour into the show where they actually start to get into the whole thing. But you know, and Ryan Flores throws some words out there, some verbiage out there that I never even thought of that, could have been a factor. And it's true. He was talking about basically what would be one quart, a quarter of a gallon. And, whether the pickup picked it up or not, it's a possibility there was a problem there. Things with the temperature difference between Saturday and Sunday and how the car and the engine reacts to that. So there's just so many things, and everybody, trust me, everybody's kicking themselves on Monday. Everybody's got a thing. I'm sure that Jonathan has something where he's like, man, I wish I'd have done this or done that. And Tony is thinking probably of this calculation or that calculation, and Chris is probably thinking, man, maybe I didn't get it good enough. Didn't get a good connection right off the bat and could have got that, another quart and just didn't happen. Or that, all these things. So, for the people who are ready to fire everybody, please stop doing that. Please stop doing that. This is the same team that won the championship last year, same crew chief, same pit crew. And then that's another thing. Everybody's blaming pit crew so much, and it's like crazy too, because coming into the weekend, they were like the second best pit crew on pit road on 4 tire pit stops times. So they're not middle of the pack. They're not bad, but every pit crew has an incident too, like the incident from last week. So don't tell me that, you're going to go to the pit crew store and buy 5 new guys who you're going to do a better job, because you're not getting that either, but what you do have is you have very quality individuals who are definitely doing their job and working hard every week. And, whatever happened, as we're going to discuss, and everybody's going to draw their own conclusions. But don't go crazy, over killing yourself over it either. It happened. Hopefully you just never see it again from Ryan. Maybe Ryan will be the beneficiary of it someday. That's the thing. Is Ryan's been running third in a race, and 2 guys get in front of him, get into each other, and then the next, Ryan wins the race. So there's always these things that seem to happen at the ends of races, and that's what people are going to remember. People don't remember the other 100 some laps beforehand. They only remember that moment where things change. So, don't get too down on it. Next week's another week, and another fun week and more stuff to watch, but like I said, we'll get into the what's and whatnots and, theories and thoughts, but, cheer up everybody. It's going to be okay. Honest.
So I want to get your take on just the overall weekend of racing. This is the 3rd straight year that the Cup Series has gone to Gateway. Crowd looked great. They announced a sellout. It looked pretty close to a sellout to me. The track really widened out during this race. I mean, especially if you watch Ryan's line in the closing laps, basically running up against the wall, getting as much momentum as possible. Guys could run the bottom as well. There's guys kind of running in that middle lane a little bit. I thought the good cars, like the 20 and the 12 and the 2 and some others, when they did get stuck back in traffic, especially the 20, which, I mean, being completely honest, the 20 was the class of the field in the race specifically. Good cars could pass. Passing was difficult, but I would say not impossible in some cases. And I was kind of surprised to see, I mean, maybe I shouldn't being social media, but people kind of being down on the racing. I thought as far as like a whole race goes, for me, the type of race fan that I am, we saw lots of strategy, lots of, different strategies on when to pit and when to stay out for stage points. And we had a great run there where we went long, and there's a caution that comes out like at the perfect time. So you had cars all over the place on strategy. You had cars that were running different lines during this race. The ending, if Ryan isn't involved in it, I would have enjoyed the kind of the chaos of what happened. So what were your takeaways on the racing at Gateway, and is it a track you would like to see them continue on and add to the 2025 schedule when that comes out?
Yeah. Fix the Wi-Fi for the people that are working in the sport. There was an occasion or two that I heard Tim saying he lost timing and scoring, and this is the 3rd year in a row this has happened. It's called Worldwide Technology Speedway, and they've got dark ages technology there. The guys who are on the roof need their equipment to work properly. There were points in times where people will point out communication problems or whatever. They say, oh, there's a communication problem. Well, the problem wasn't communication. The problem was the guy up there trying to communicate didn't have what he needed. Ryan would ask for certain thing, and his computer was lagging so bad from lack of internet, but the pit boxes were working correctly. And it's just like, can we not get these guys a decent signal so they can get some internet to do their jobs? I mean, just that kind of thing, it just drives me crazy. But the racing at the track itself seems to be pretty good. The fan experience, from what I understand, every year they've got something going on there. As long as they're not blocking the view of spectators at the end of the one turn there, like they did the one year. But the pyrotechnics is a great picture to take a snapshot, but it blows debris all over the track. I guess a couple of guys didn't want to go for the restart. They wanted them to get over there with the dryers and blow the stuff off the track. So I don't know about that. They had to maybe quit doing that or do it a little further away from the track so that doesn't dirty up the track. But otherwise, yeah, the fact that the track widened out, it still was hard to pass, but it gave you, at least like you said, the two options of you run this line or that line. They still were doing air blocking, but we watched, we of course watching through the view of the 12 car. They were one of the better cars all weekend, so we knew that if they got to certain cars, they were going to pass them. It still took a lap or two, short track racing, but looks promising because they always compare this track to Phoenix in New Hampshire. So the next couple weeks with New Hampshire coming up, and then Phoenix at the end of the year looks promising. It looks like there could be a top 3 or 4 car. Just got to be in the right position those weekends.
Yeah, and going into this race, Ryan qualified in the top 5 both races, finished in the top 5, top 10 both races at Gateway. So I had a lot of optimism for just a good, solid finish, which is what the 12 team really needed this weekend after this kind of terrible stretch that they've had. Yeah, they had a great run at the All-Star race, but that doesn't really mean anything. And then on either side of the All-Star race, they've got some DNFs that they had to deal with, and it's really put them in a precarious position in points. So all I wanted out of this weekend was just a good, solid run, and I thought based on history, we would get that. And based on practice and qualifying this week, which had a little bit of a wrinkle in it because of some weather, that actually kind of, I thought, turned into a cool practice session. The Fords looked great, looked strong. Team Penske specifically too.
Yeah, this is something that they ought to start doing every week. Just combine the practices. You do like 30 minutes and do one practice. They had a weather issue. They thought the weather was going to cause some issues, so they went ahead and combined the practices, and then they were still going to do the qualifying the same way. And 1 30-minute practice with all the cars, 2 laps in, the 22 went to the top of the board. Ryan was P3. By lap 3, Ryan was P1. Lap 4, Joey passed Ryan up. So, that's pretty good. But with 12 minutes to go, and they had a caution for some drops that were coming. And, Ryan says at this point on the radio, said, man, I hope we get to qualify when it goes back green. He knew at that point right away that they had a car that was going to be a top 10 car. With a couple minutes to go there, Tim says that it looks like it's clearing up there and they're going to go head out, and it didn't have to bring the dryers or anything like that. So with about they went back in, they did some adjustments, but they came back out with a couple minutes to go, and the change definitely helped the entry, and they were top in the 15 lap average, which is usually pretty good, pretty indicative of what they can do. So we get to qualifying Group A. The Fast 5 were the 11, the 2, the 20, the 54, and the 8. Ryan in Group B went out 5th, and that's a little bit scary because the earlier these guys go out in a qualifying session, the less the rubber's on the track and in the way, and not moved out of the way as much. So he ran like a 32.663, and Jonathan says that's a good lap. And sure enough, it was the third best lap of the bunch, the 34, the 45, the 12, the 23, and the 6. So then they're going for the pole. Tim gets on there and tells Ryan about where the 2's lap was, and Austin ran a 32.577. Ryan ran a 32.613. Pretty good laps compared to everybody else, but the 34 ran a 32.468. So the 34 gets the pole, Austin P2, Ryan P3, and the 34 was cheating somehow. That's the way I feel.
Well, the only thing I thought about the 34 was like he's so much faster than everybody else. There's no way that car races well. And spoiler alert, it didn't really race well for much of the race.
Yeah,
so.
it took off okay at the beginning, but then it was gonna fade. So we get to race day on Sunday, and it's gonna be a little bit warmer temperature, but no threat of rain. Stages 45, 140, and 240, 10 sets of tires. According to Bob Pockross, the fuel run is 72 to 78 laps. I'm going to throw that out there right now before we even get to that point.
Take note.
Yeah, take note on that one. Pit stall 21, which was super. This was right before the start-finish line. This is what qualifying good really does for you. Right before the start-finish line, in front of Ryan was an opening to go behind the pit wall, and then there were 2 boxes open in front of that. So he had nothing in front of him for 3 spots, and the 17 would be pitting behind him. So as long as they were in front of the 17 all day long, they weren't going to have to mess around with him either. I give Tim credit for this. Tim works in the sponsor during the pre-race. He says, stay hydrated, lots of body armor. I think Tim's got a deal working. The 34 takes the outside for the start. So we're starting behind the 2 on the inside. And he gets inside of the 2 in turn 1 and passes him. This is a spectacular start to the race. The 34 is in first, and the 20 actually got himself around on the outside of all that to second, and then Ryan's in third. And then we get a caution right off the bat. The 42 and the 15 decide to play with each other. So Ryan says a little bit snug, but it's coming to him. And Ryan had kind of apologized to the 2, but they find out that the 2 was too free there. So Ryan kind of had to make that maneuver around him. He wasn't trying to hit him or nothing on purpose. But it was actually the 2 that had the problem. So it wasn't really Ryan's fault. They're, of course, staying out here. The 34 takes the top. Ryan's taking the top behind the 34. And the restart lap 7 here. The 2 is racing Ryan really, really hard on the inside here. And at lap 9, he finally clears him to P3. And the 20 is, once again, the 20 is the key here. The 20 is in front of Ryan here and crushing the 34. By lap 13, he's 0.2 faster than the 2 guys in front of him, but about 1 second back at the 20. And we get a caution at lap 16 for the 16 and the 15. And I thought this was going to be one of those days where we just heard the 15 all day long. He's back, and he's ruining his dad's equipment on a weekly basis. Cody Ware. Ryan says he's building a little free, and he needs to tighten up just a touch, just to take some of the brake out of it, because he is putting a couple rounds of brake into it to combat this. Jonathan says they got 12 green on their tires, so they're staying out. And about 20 cars stayed out at this point. So this is where these strategies start to differ a little bit. On the choose cone here, the 34 takes the top. Ryan is taking the top, and Ryan will be behind the 11 on this restart here at lap 22. He clears the 2 after a few laps, and at lap 27, he's catching the 20, about 0.65 back of the leader, which is the 34. At lap 34, we're getting closer to the 20 here. We're only like 2.92 back of the 20, and at lap 31, the 20 and the 34 are door to door here, and the 34 is maintaining the lead. So kind of watching this battle going on in front of him, hoping he doesn't become the third man in. Lap 41, the 20 does take the lead. The 20 wins stage 1. Ryan finishes third in stage 1. So right off the bat, start stage 1, right back into some points right off the bat. He gets on and says they lost a little bit of turn in 1 and 2, so they need to tighten up a little bit. They're doing 4 tires here, small adjustment. And they go in third, come out 7th here, but a couple of the guys took 2 tires. So this is another strategy thing, a couple guys play out where two tires, and it really doesn't change their lap times too much. So they I think it was the 41, the 14, the 19. A couple cars stayed out too. So that was a 9.14 pit stop, which is really, really good. The leader is the 38 who stayed out, taking the top. Ryan restarts 13th on this. So really interesting here because a couple of these guys who stayed out really don't have the speed to stay there, Restarting at lap 54 here, and they sort out the 14th here. And then we do some passing. Lap 57, pass the 16 car to get to 13th. Lap 58, passing the 34 car to get to 12th. Lap 61, he passes the 38, so the 38 had already faded that far back. Ryan gets to 11th. Lap 69 passes the 14 to get to 10th. At this point, the 20 is taking the lead. Excuse me. And Ryan's says they're way too loose all of a sudden. Lap 75, about 0.2 faster than the next 5 in front of him, though. So loose is fast. Lap 78, passing the 41 up to 9th. At lap 80, we're closing on the 2 and the 47 here. At lap 88, the 2 and the 47 door to door. They don't really do this, but lap 96, the 20 pits. So at lap 97, the 9 and the 19 pit, Ryan's up to second at this point. Now, at lap 106 at P2 here, but he's about 2.48 back. So, they're probably going to be staying out at the break here. So top 12 haven't pitted. They caution at lap 112 for the 4 car. And this is a caution that's timely. It kind of changes some things here. Ryan says we've got a heavier number, and he's got about 6 rounds of front brake in it. So he wants to get
Now, is this the one where this is toward the end of the stage, right?
Yeah.
So what this really changes is the strategy that they were on. They were going to pit before the stage ends and cycle more toward the back of the pack and not get stage points in order to kind of jump the field at the break. But this caution's so timely that they can come in and pit, and they come back out within striking distance of still getting stage points. So it was huge for that to happen. I think the strategy was going to work out no matter what, but this was just like an extra added bonus for sure for staying long. And it's always good when like a strategy works out. It's just kind of always a great feeling because they don't always work out when you kind of gamble a little bit.
Yeah, they pit here with a 10.07 second, and Jonathan tells them we did a decent wedge adjustment. The 20 is taking the lead here, and Jonathan says something about keep saving. We're up to 7th here, and excuse me, restarting at lap 119 here with the 20 taking the top, Ryan taking the top. At lap 121, passes the 6th up to 6th, passing lap 125. Passes the 5 up to 5th. Lap 128 passes the 8 up to 4th. At lap 134 passes the 9 up to 3rd. And then we get a caution right at the stage at lap 140 for the 8 and the 5 and that little debacle. But Ryan says it fired off tighter, but in the right direction. And Jonathan says he's torn between 2 different strategies here. He's probably number 5, and they stay out. So this is where this strategy is the perfect strategy, and it ends up playing out perfect. All these things depend on cautions and when they're going to happen, but this one actually does end up working out.
I believe this is also the first time. Now they did say save on that previous stop, but this might be the one and only time we really hear them say save fuel. Yeah. And I think Tim asks or something, and Jonathan confirms, like, yeah, we need to be saving here, and that's kind of the only inkling we got that by staying out here, they might run into, needing to conserve fuel the rest of the way because most likely this just sets up a one-stop stage to go to the finish. So and it'll be a stop before other people stop, and then depending on where they are on the track, they'll gain that position too. So it's really interesting here because like 12 cars total stay out, and the 2, the 12, and the 22 are the top 3, which is really, really cool.
moment for the Penske guys. They're all on a similar strategy. So the two takes the top, Ryan takes the bottom here. Now at this point, I'm hoping that he can get by him, but they restart lap 149, and the 22 is pushing Ryan up to second. Goes a couple cars. The 14 made it 3 wide for a second there. At lap 146, Jonathan says we're about 30 away from the cycle. And Ryan, that's to get a little feedback from Ryan more than anything else. Ryan says they're fairly balanced, a tiny more bit of turn. And, we get lap 165 about 6/10 back of the 2 car. So, and Joey's about 3 seconds back. So they've kind of like spaced out a little bit. At lap 170, Tim tells them they were about a 10th better than, in front of them. Lap 173, Jonathan tells him if you see the 2 wave off, come with him. And, that's an interesting thing that, they would try to pit together. But I think Ryan at this point comes on the radio and says something about track position. Excuse me.
Yeah, I think he actually says I need to get out ahead of him, right? Yeah.
I need track. Well, he doesn't say that. He says, I need track position. And what he means is he needs, right, exactly. That's what he needs. It's just the way he puts it. So they go ahead and pit. And actually, they were going to, at lap 175, they pit, but they were going to pit a lap earlier, but Jonathan called them too late. They were already past that entrance. So they're pitting at lap 175. It's a 9.61 second stop. And they do get on the pit road a lap before the 2 car. Now the 2 car has to hurry up and react. And this was the race because everybody else is going to pit later, and they're still going to be on the track, and they're going to get that track position back that they had initially. And he beats the 2 coming off pit road. Ryan gets out in front of him, and at this point, they're like the last cars on the lead lap, but we know that all of the cars in front of them still have to pit. So now the key is just have a green flag cycle. No cautions from here on in, and we're going to get back to the front.
Something on these strategies, we are always like, just can we get it? And we don't always get it. We get it this time.
we get exactly what we want.
And we know the way it turns out, but it's like we're always like asking for this to happen. Can't we just get a long green flag run to the end, especially even when Ryan's like a little bit back further because he always has such a great long run car. He can get up through there. In this case, he's leading the race, and it was really weird because I kind of relayed you to my wife was kind of in and out watching, and we're at a point where it's 60 laps to go or something like that, and I'm like, it may look like Ryan is down the leaderboard, but he's actually leading the race. And I just kind of explained that kind of how the strategies were mixed up. And it's like, so it's weird. It was weird being, kind of a total ball of nerves for, someone running in the back half of the top 10, but it's just, and that's kind of how it was the whole rest of the way. And but this is going to be an interesting stretch to talk about for sure.
Yeah. In our household, we, the wife was totally in tune with what happened there. And she thought right away the same thing I thought. That was the race for the lead coming off pit road. And TV didn't maybe cover it that way. I don't know. Here's another bad part about the TV. I'm watching the in-car camera more than I'm watching anything else. So I'm not necessarily paying attention to the TV. I'm listening to spotter way more too. So I don't know how they covered that. But to me, it was the race for the win. So lap 185, Ryan and Tim are discussing where the 2 is running and the gap each lap. He kind of wants to know where he is, where he's running, so they can kind of maintain the gap, if not spread it out, because they're pretty equal cars. Lap 190, they're up to 19th here as some of the cars are starting to pit. And he's 1.7 ahead of the 2 car. At lap 192, they're running through some lap traffic now, passing the 7 is for position to 18th. Lap 194, some of the leaders are starting to pit finally. We're up to 14th at one lap 198 up to 12th. Another lap later is all the way up to 10th. At lap 200, passing the 43 up to 9th. At lap 201, past the 48 up to 8th. The 6 car has decided to stick it out. He's really hoping for a caution, catch everybody, have the lead, come in and pit, and hopefully nobody stays out on him. But, a couple of the other cars in front of Ryan have to pit. Ryan's up to 7th. At this point, like the 34 is in the way, and Ryan says something to Tim, and Tim goes, and I don't know how they do this. I don't know if they run down to the spotter, the other team's spotter, the other guy's spotter, or if they make eye contact, or they're close enough to each other. But if you watch on TV or you're watching on his in-car camera, he gets the 34 out of the way basically as they get to him. Lap 207, he passes that 34, gets to 6th, and lap 210 to 20 has passed the 2. And that kind of was surprising how quickly the 20 had already kind of knifed his way up through things. Ryan's up to 5th at lap 211, passing the 23 up to 4th. The 6 pits is up to 3rd. At lap, was that one? They slid high and, starting to race with the 20 here at lap 216. They're door to door, and,
some really great racing happens here.
It's craziness here. Because they're kind of back and forth. Ryan's running the higher line. The 20 car is running the lower line. And at the pit cycle, it's just about to complete here because they're running for the lead. I think the 5 car had to pit at this point, get out of the way. Then they're running into lappers a little bit here too, and that's kind of helping and it's hurting because if you get behind the lapper, then the guy on the inside doesn't get behind the lapper. And through the in-car camera, like I said, it's crazy because you're watching through the front windshield. Ryan's running a high line. 20 is running the low line. They'll come out of like in the turn, you'll see the 20 out the left-hand side, and you'll see him get nose in front of Ryan, but he can't close it and get in front of Ryan because he's not far enough and can't be cleared. So then Ryan gains the momentum coming out of each turn, and by the time they get to the start-finish line, Ryan's leading another lap. And at lap 221 is when the crossover happens. Now, this is the one time they come out of 4, and the 20 actually had the advantage, got in front of Ryan coming out of 4. Ryan gets right up behind him coming across the start-finish line, does the crossover, gets underneath him, gets back into 1 and 2, and all of a sudden, boom, he's in the lead again. It's a great move, spectacular. I don't know how, like I said, how TV's coverage of it was. The in-car camera was awesome because you see him close on the bumper. You see him go left of the guy. He got inside of him enough where he could get by him. And then, like, within a lap, you hear about Jonathan come on and say something about the 20 might be blowing up. And now you get to be like, oh, man, this is happening, because there's only a number of laps left.
Yeah, so it's like now I'm trying to think of ways at this point he can lose the race, which the main thing was going to be a caution coming out. I'm like, what is it? Was this when the 15 spins again? Yeah. We saw guys blow tires earlier in the race, like the 4 did. Like something was bound to happen.
The 20 car himself, if whatever was happening to him, and they're saying it was a gear problem, I think, with all the shifting, but a transmission problem. But if, let's say, the engine blew and smoke everywhere and oil everywhere, and then they got to call a caution, right?
And then I was going to say, then beyond that, our only other issue is there's these guys out front of him that are all battling to stay on the lead lap, or at least stay the lucky dog. So that's like the next issue we're going to run into.
Yeah. So lap 225, it's a 3.2 gap back to the 2, but like you said, with the 99 and the 23 racing in front of him, lap 233, it's about a 2.3 second gap. Lap 235, it's close to 1.5 because he's gotten stuck behind these 2 guys. They're racing hard. Like I said, Ryan raced with the 20 car for 5, 6, 7 laps door to door. These things kind of you're going to factor into what happens here because we get to that last lap. And like I said, we had about a 1.5 second gap on the 2. And as we're coming to the white flag, you hear it. I mean, you're going to hear it all over NASCAR social media type stuff, what he says. And, it's going to sting for a while is what he ends up saying with some other expletives in there. But the truth is once again, you shoot your shot. You made an attempt here. One of the factors that people don't factor into this whole situation is how hard he raced.
Can I lay out the facts real of the situation before we analyze? So just things for people to remember leading up to this. The stage 2 break, they stay out, everybody else pits. They are going to do this whole final stage on one stop. They short pit. One of the first cars to come down pit road. Ryan wants track position. They leapfrog the 2 car who had a pretty decent lead on Ryan to going into the pits.
Yeah, about 2 seconds.
They come out ahead of him by a pretty decent margin as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they're already going to run. They already had run long previously. They short pit here, and they're going to run long the rest of the way. And from some analysis we saw, post race, there may have been one of the only cars up there that only took one can of fuel at the end, and that goes into your shooting their shot situation here, because the 2 car did engage a second can of fuel on that stop. And his crew chief as well, Brian Wilson, actually said this morning on a radio interview that they had a bad pit. He didn't say a bad pit stop. He said they had a longer pit stop than they anticipated, which also just inherently maybe even gave them that opportunity to engage a second can of fuel as well. Whereas, Ryan had a pretty, it wasn't super fast. I think you said it was like a 9.9 or something like that, 9.6 So like it was maybe a little bit longer than some of his other stops during the day. So they short pitted. They're running really long here. They stayed out on that stage break as well. So while pretty much none of us, including the TV people and everybody watching, had any idea that they were going to be close on fuel, they were going to be close on fuel. And that's why I mentioned early on that stage break, when that's the last time we actually even heard them kind of communicate that, at least on the channels we can hear, save fuel, save when you can. So I just wanted to kind of remind people of those steps along the way, and then now let you get back into the shooting the shot thing, and then also what may have impacted them making it all the way.
Yeah, the factors, because that's the interesting thing, is there are different factors. They pit with I believe it was 66 to go. The fuel window that Bob has is at 72 to 78. At least that's what Bob reports, in his pre-race report.
Yeah, with the full tank.
With a full tank. So everybody's a little different. But did they think they had enough? Yeah. Like I said, stacking pennies. Go listen to Ryan Flores, Skip Flores talk on there. He mentions barometric pressure and all kind of other things, that because the weather was different between Saturday and Sunday. So they're saying the consumption may have been different. Then he mentioned something about the fuel pickup. Maybe the fuel pickup didn't pick up what they needed to pick up. They only needed to pick up a quart of gas. So what did that entail? 1 quart. I mean, how close, racing with the 20 and then trying to get around the 23 and the 99 uses up more gas too. You can't just sit there and feather it and save. So even if he was told to save, he couldn't save because the guys were coming, and you're racing as hard as you can. And literally that race with the 20 for 5 or 6 or 7 laps, whatever it was, door to door, you use more fuel because you're actually running side by side. Your aero, you're literally like side drafting each other, doing some aero things that cause you to use more gas. So all of those things were a factor in what ends up being, like I said, a lap and a half of fuel that they needed. Definitely a kick in the pants, but overall speed, everybody wants to see what kind of speed the Fords have, and the whole Penske program came to play, obviously, because, Austin finished second. And that's the other thing. Race is over. Austin has no idea what actually happened to the 12th car, but he's on cloud 9, and they're interviewing him right on the front stretch. And what's one of the first thing he says? He says, I feel bad for whatever happened to the 12th team. They were dominated. They really deserved to win today. We pick on him a little bit as a teammate, but you know what? That actually was really nice to hear. There's some nice video of Brad Keselowski. Ryan brought his car passed the start finish line, turned around pit road and come the other direction. So he was like near the front of pit road, and Brad gets out of his car. So I saw it through Ryan's front windshield because Brad got out of his car and come right to Ryan and grabbed him for a second. And, and kind of like gave him a, pat on the back and talked to him for a second. Which was really nice to see too. Cause Brad, we know what Brad means to Ryan. Ryan said some good stuff afterward, you got to kind of have a little bit of an attitude like you're mad, you're going to have that. But like I said, you learn from this, try to never have it happen to you again. And, but overall, everybody who's ready to throw everybody out the window, stop doing that. These guys won a championship. They know how to do this. They made an attempt to win a race, and they did it with a very ballsy move, really, to come out and give Ryan asked for the track position, and they did what it took to give him the track position. And if it plays out the way we were hoping it would play out, today all we'd be talking about what a great call, what a great move, what a great thing, but these things have happened. You guys want to Google last, guys running out of gas on the last lap type stuff. And there's tons of videos of different things that happen to championship drivers. So don't be like, so depressed about it or so upset about it, you're ready to fire everybody. These guys took a chance. They took a shot. This time it didn't work out, but there'll be a next time. These guys will put another race together. Could be this weekend. You don't know.
Yeah, I think what we've talked a little before, and I've talked in our Discord and some other spots, and it's really just that you're right, that this is not a new thing to happen to somebody in a way to lose a race. It was just we didn't know all the information and all the details until well after the race was over as to what actually had transpired. So I thought the 20 passing, I thought the race was over there. Cause I'm like, this is a great battle, but the 20 has had such an amazing car that he's going to get past Ryan eventually and he'll go on to win the race. That's how we lose the race. Okay. The 20 drops back. So I'm like, okay, the caution's going to, a weird caution's going to come out, and the 2 or somebody, whoever is going to, I think the 11 was even coming. Like there's some other guys back there are going to get aggressive on the restart and clean them out. And that's how we lose the race. Or, okay, we get up behind our amigo, Suarez, who, I know from really paying attention to him over the last few years, when he's about to get lapped, he is about one of the hardest possible people to pass on the track. And he has successfully, at the end of stages several times, stayed out in front of the leader by being extremely aggressive and not getting lapped. So I'm like, this is how we lose the race. The 99 will accidentally put us in the wall, or Ryan will get frustrated and try to make a move around him, and that's how we're going to lose the race. I had all those different scenarios built up in my head as to how we're going to lose this race. Running out of gas was not even anywhere near anything I thought was going to happen. So I think that's kind of where that gut punch comes from, because it came totally out of left field. It wasn't something we were expecting. In other strategy races where fuel mileage is very well known, I even mentioned like Martinsville last year during the win, it was totally overblown, the fuel mileage, I think, at least for the 12 car, but there were other guys that were kind of close. Like TV was talking about it, and we knew it was a possibility. So I think that kind of lessens the blow. So it's taken me a while. I'm feeling a little bit better about it. Really thankful they got those stage points. Again, they got that great caution at the end of stage 2 that gave them the opportunity to get stage points they weren't going to get on the strategy they were on. So when we're looking at the points standings right now, the 12 car doesn't gain or lose any positions this week. He does lose a dozen or so points to the leader. So Ryan's still in the 12th position. He's now 129 points back of the leader, who's Denny Hamlin in first right now. Ryan on the day, with the stage points that he earned and finishing 24th, I think I mentioned to you, he earned about the same amount of points as the guy that finished 13th or 14th. So those stage points kind of really saved the day. If I don't even know what to think. I feel like I'm glad the 2-1. It's great what he said. Like you said, we give Austin a lot of stuff on here and other places sometimes for how he runs. But the kid, they put a good car under him. He executed, put himself in position. Congratulations to him. It's like part of me, it's like, do I wish that the two would have just got by him and Ryan slows down because he is trying to save and he finishes second and we're in a really good spot. I think I was trying to calculate if Ryan does just finish second here, I think he vaults up into like the 8th or so position in points.
Yeah.
In a much better spot. I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I'd rather him have that shot at winning than just get those extra points to end up 8th. But man, we just really needed a solid race here, and we didn't get it overall. It could have been much worse.
Do you think
but man, it's rough.
Do you think now, from now on, anytime that Ryan and Austin go anywhere out in public, if they meet for dinner or lunch or something, that Austin has to buy from now on, I think.
yeah. I think he owes them a little bit.
He's won 2 races, and he's won 2 races because of the 12 car. So because of Ryan,
one much more aggressive than the other.
Yeah, one a little more aggressive than the other, but just the same. The 12 car had everything to do with him winning in 2 different ways. Good for the Penske program though, as a whole. And like I said, Ryan had stage points, third place stage points at both stages. So still a decent points day, even though it was a 24th place finish, last car in the lead lap, and literally cruising down the backstretch. I was surprised that he was able to hold on to the lead lap. Yeah,
honestly, super lucky he got back around, or it could have been much worse.
So
here's where I need you to talk me off the ledge now. The two takes an extra position here in the playoff standings. The 5 right now, because of the craziness that is happening, isn't listed in the playoff standings. But when assuming the 5 gets a waiver, we'll come back in. Those playoff positions are dwindling. The available positions. Ryan right now is only plus 47 to the cut line in the playoff standings. That makes me extremely nervous. And we've had those 2 DNFs, but I've seen other guys, the 23. The 22 with his early season issues fall out of the playoff standings and they haven't found a way back in yet. 47 points is not a lot. And if you do have we're coming up on Sonoma, which road courses Ryan's been pretty average at. I do think there's 3 tracks after that. He has a really good opportunity to get a victory, which will solve all the problems. But this is where like my anxiety ramps back up. And it gives me those 2022 vibes and nightmares to where you had to have your playoff board out and examining all that all the way down to the stretch, which was fun, but also really, really just awful at the same time. So tell me everything's going to be okay.
The sad part is this whole situation with the 5 car. What are they doing? Their feelings are hurt because they didn't do what they promised they were going to do, and they decided to stick around in Indy for the rain delay. I mean, come on, NASCAR. This was good for the sport, for all the sports involved, both IndyCar and NASCAR. And you were keeping track of where the helicopters and planes were and everything else on the broadcast. So give him his darn waiver and get that part of it out of the mix, because that's ridiculous to me. As a matter of fact, if I was NBC right now, I'd be at their front door yelling at them, because you're threatening NBC's last 10 broadcasts of the season with this bull crap right now, where you're holding up his waiver. You've given waivers to guys for so many different things. It's ridiculous. There's only been like 2 or 3 that they never granted, and it was 1 or 2 of them were guys who had drug problems and missed races, so that's understandable. But everything else that's ever happened, and I kind of always have a problem with a waiver of somebody getting injured outside of the sport. Inside the sport, I definitely understand it happened. Yeah. It could, you missed a race. Kurt Busch, may have had a problem with the head injury. And they were going to give him a waiver. It's just things like that I have no problem with. And this is another one of those things, though. This is something that they should have no problem with giving him a waiver. Especially the fact that they were going to try and, milk it and make money off of it. And, should we delay the start? And should we delay this? And, if we come back racing, he's going to be in the car. and let's see what happens. Your broadcast team knows what to do with it. Why can't the sport know what to do with it? Because if they don't give them a waiver, you've discouraged anybody else in NASCAR from doing this like ever again, because you don't want to risk that. You have a weather delay again like that, and you risk it. Or this sounds ridiculous, but if Kyle Larson would have won the Indy 500 under a normal day, normal circumstances, not with a weather delay, he would have been still late getting to Charlotte because of all the things you have to do post race and the celebration and then what? Then were you not going to give him a waiver then too because he missed the start of your race because he was busy drinking the milk?
Yeah.
So yeah, they're really coming from a position of just idiocracy that I don't get. And
yeah, the other massive issue they're going to have, assuming let's say they don't give him one, is that the 5 car is going to win more races this year, and somebody along the way is going to be tracking through the playoffs. Like if he would have advanced, well, I mean, they don't even have to do that because they could just follow the owner's points. And
they're going to follow the owner's points. And
plenty capable. He's done it before. What he goes out and wins Phoenix, like it's just a nightmare.
You have a split championship at the end of the year.
Yeah,
you're gonna have the 5 car win the owner's points, and then somebody else, win the drivers.
It's just
championship.
I think they're just kind of. I think what Jordan has said on the teardown and stuff with Jeff Gluck, like. I think they're just making him sweat a little bit to say, hey, all week you guys said NASCAR was going to be the priority until the day came and the decision time came. And you said, actually, this is going to be our priority. So they're going to have to do it. There's just way, like you said, NBC, the whole playoff scenario. He's super popular right now. He's going to win more races this year. They're going to do it. It's just, but everyone's on the other side is right, though. By the letter of the law, no waiver should be granted, but they've granted too many already on that clause of unless NASCAR deems it necessary or whatever. Basically, they just have that the clause in there where they could just do whatever they want on pretty much any rule. So it is what it is. But yeah, right now, all I'm saying is when Larson gets back in, those playoff spots are dwindling. They're drying up. And I'm getting really nervous with the position that the 12 might be in at this point, with not as big of a cushion as they had maybe 3 or 4 races ago. They're in a much better points position and position over that cut line. So, but a win will cure everything, and we were just a lap away from that last week, and now it's bringing all those feelings, those hurt feelings back again. So we need to move on. We need to talk about something else that's more hurtful, and that's our fantasy live standings.
Yeah, let's talk about our fantasy picks.
I made a mistake there because I was so wrapped up in what was happening on the track. I could have taken Logano out of my garage and probably picked up another 20 points. Unfortunately, I didn't do that. So my starters, actually, I mean, this was honestly a pretty good set of drivers. I had Michael McDowell, who ended up on the pole. I thought that was looking great, but he didn't end up finishing too well. I had the winner, Cindric, which was like a wild card for me. I was like, I put him in because of what happened in qualifying and in practice. I had Keselowski. That was great. I had Bubba Wallace because I don't know. I thought he was going to show some speed. And I had Logano in the garage. So I didn't take Logano out of the garage. So I left 39 points in the garage, whereas I left Bubba Wallace in my lineup, and he only got me 16. So that's unfortunate. Featured matchups, I picked Blaney over Bell. That was wrong, even though it was going to be right. I picked Logano over Busch. That was right. I picked Hamlin over Truex. That was right. I picked Gibbs over Bowman. That was right. So I was 3 out of the 4 on the featured matchups. Overall, 192 points earned on the weekend at Gateway, and 40th rank.
Yeah, I'm give me 1 sec. I'm trying to look it up here, get my act together. There's my league. Okay. Oh, hey, I didn't do too badly, really. I had, I made the Kyle Busch move at the stage break, and it let me get away with it. Because to me, the stage was over, but when that happened, but I hurried up and made the move and got him out of there because I had him in the lineup, and he ends up with 35th. And I think I replaced him with, it might have been Tyler Reddick or Bubba Wallace. Whoever it was I replaced him with was worth way many more points. I had Christopher Bell. I had Denny Hamlin. So our 7th place finisher, our 2nd place finisher, Tyler Reddick, who finished 4th. And I had Ryan. And man, I would have been in the top 10 if Ryan would have finished where he was looking at, I had Ryan over Bell. That's not good. I had Kyle Busch over Joey. So that didn't work out. I had Denny over Martin. That was good. And then I had Ty Gibbs over Bowman. So that was a good finish. And if any of you played the bracket challenge like I did, that didn't go well either. Noah Gregson wins by,
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't have Ryan going all the way in mine, but I did have him over Noah, and I didn't even go back. I should go back and check and see where that bracket's at, but I don't really want to.
I don't want to either. I've already erased the app.
So you ended up 37th overall, a 3-way tie for 37th on the weekend, 193 points earned. So you actually only beat me by 1 point. I had 192. So we were pretty close there on the weekend. But let's take a look at the top 10 in points earned at Gateway in the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League. In 10th, U.S. Calvin, 222 points. In 9th, Charlie Abu, 2025. We have a tie for 7th with Angie 12 and Blaney's Daisy at 2028. We have a 3-way tie for 4th with JD Racing, Blaney Kicks Beep, and Racer SF at 230. In 3rd, we have the Buckeye Bullet, 234. 2nd was Zero Schlitz Given, 246. And leading the way, winning the weekend in the 1st position, Cheesehead Fan, 252 points earned. Now let's take a look at the overall standings in the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League. Still holding in a good spot here for me. 29th position overall, 2,769 points. You are in the 24th position, so within striking distance of me, or I'm still in striking distance of you. 2,804 points for you, Mez 12 and 24th. Let's take a look at that top 10, though. In 10th, Charlie Abu, 2,901 points. In 9th is Penske Fan 24, 2,909. In 8th is Blaney Bust, 2,914. And 7th is Factory of Sadness 6, 2,923. In 6th is Dr. Race Chaser, 2,926. In 5th is Moose Hunter 1960, 2,934. In 4th is Blaney 10, 2,968. 3rd is Alyssa C, 2,978. 2nd is Frank Fan 12, 3,008 points, and leading the way still on the Team Blaney NASCAR Fantasy Live League overall standings. Go Larson, 3,031 points. So that brings us to this upcoming weekend's race. We're heading out to the West Coast for some road course racing at Sonoma Raceway. So here's the NASCAR on TV report for Sonoma. Now, this is going to be a little weird, Steve. Friday, June 7th, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time is going to be a tape-delayed broadcast of the NASCAR Cup Series practice at Sonoma. The actual practice is going to happen at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. It's not going to get to the TV until 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I don't know if that means you can get onto the NASCAR app at 5 and listen to the scanner still and watch the practice times. I mean, probably. It's been a while since they've tape delayed practice. So Friday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern on FS1, you can watch practice, but it is going to be a few hours tape delayed. Saturday, June 8th, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, NASCAR Cup Series qualifying at Sonoma. That's going to be on FS2. 8 p.m. Eastern Time, you're going to have the NASCAR Xfinity Series Zip Buy Now, Pay Later, or Zip Buy Now, Pay Later 250 at Sonoma. That Xfinity Series race will be on FS1, again, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday. And then Sunday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, you have the NASCAR Cup Series Toyota Save Mart 350 at Sonoma, and that's going to be on Fox. So we're going road course racing with the NASCAR Cup Series. Let's take a look at Ryan's career statistics at Sonoma. He's made 7 starts there, no wins, 1 top 5, 4 top 10s. He doesn't have any DNFs, an average finish of 15.6, an average start of 15.6, average finish of 16.6. So this really, Ryan Blaney, especially in the next gen era, is really a lot closer to what his stats are. I said he's kind of average now. In the Gen 6 car, Ryan was top 5, top 10 threat for a long time. Next gen car, He's kind of slid back a little bit. So that's why I'm saying this weekend, at least for me, I'm just kind of looking for a solid day. Hopefully they can get some stage points. He's never led any laps at Sonoma. So it's just I'm not expecting a win this week, but yeah, you never know. What are your expectations for the 12 car this weekend?
That's the thing is like Sonoma, it's going to be so weird because then they paved the track too, so there's some things going on there. A couple guys got to go out and test it. Some changes to the turns too, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the same layout or not, but they definitely did do some paving, and I think they actually had some paving issues they had to go back and fix too.
So yeah, so this is kind of funky because to me Ryan is a rhythm guy when he gets these road courses. So if he gets in a good rhythm and the car's doing what he needs it to do, he's actually a pretty good threat to do some passing. And the knowing where the passing zones are, he preps for these races just like he does any of the ovals. So good qualifying to get some track position, so you don't have to play a lot of track position games. But the truth is that fantasy wise, you're going to look at the guys like Larson and guys like that who, even when they try to flip stages, he still ends up passing a bunch of guys and getting stage points, and then getting himself back to the lead. So those are the guys you look out for. But like I said earlier about being at the right place at the right time in the right situation, we know that Ryan's done that before. So just hopefully for a good points weekend more than anything else. You start off with that. Start off with good, decent qualifying, get yourself up there, and then at the end of these stages, make sure you're getting some points. Unless you feel that you can contend for the win, and then go ahead and flip the stages. So you kind of know you're going to know more about how they feel about the car when we see if they do those kind of things.
I don't remember off the top of my head what happened last year at this race, but Ryan did finish 31st. So that definitely brought down his average finish overall. Let's take a look at the top 10, at least, in this race last year. Martin Truex Jr. went to victory lane, followed by Kyle Busch, teammate Joey Logano, Chris Buescher, Chase Elliott, AJ Allmendinger, Michael McDowell in 7th, Kyle Larson in 8th, Christopher Bell in 9th, and Ross Chastain in the 10th position. The last several winners at Sonoma, I mean, if you're looking for a guy for fantasy this weekend, it's another guy that could take up another playoff spot. Martin Truex Jr. has won several of these past several races. Let's go back to 2017 here. No, we'll actually go to 2017. Kevin Harvick won. 2018, Truex. 2019, Truex. 2021, Larson. Suarez in 2022. Truex again in 2023. So Truex has won in the next gen car, so you can't just say he was good in the old car. Truex has won in both cars. This is just a track that really seems to suit MTJ really well. He hasn't been on my fantasy roster in the last few weeks, but I feel like I'm going to have to give MTJ a really good look this weekend, especially if he shows some speed in practice and qualifying.
Yeah, and he was one of the cars that got to practice there too. I got to test there, so where he's got data to begin with.
So again, if you're going to want to tune in this weekend for the racing at Sonoma, Friday, June 7th, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, you're going to see the tape delayed practice session. On Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, you can watch qualifying at Sonoma on FS2. On Sunday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, you have the Toyota Save Mart 350 at Sonoma Raceway on Fox. So we have one more bit of news to cover before we call it quits on this episode of the Team Blaney podcast, and that is something positive. And that is that the brothers, Dave and Dale Blaney, were back in action this weekend in sprint cars across Western Pennsylvania and technically Northeast Ohio, as they participated in the Western PA Sprint Speed Week, something these guys have been doing for several years. Dave, I know, picked up a win last year in one of the Speed Week races as well. So this was supposed to be a 4-race Speed Week. It ended up only being 3 because of some weather that they had on Sunday at Tri-City Raceway in Franklin, Pennsylvania. That race didn't get in. But the Blaney brothers were extremely consistent throughout the week. Didn't pick up a victory this year. Dave and Dale didn't pick up a victory, but Dave picked up a heat race win all 3 nights that they raced. Dave was the only driver to finish in the top 5 in all 3 feature events. Dave and Dale were among the only a handful of drivers that made the features every night. And they were up against a pretty stout field of drivers. I think at Sharon and some of these other races, they had 40 plus sprint cars in the pits each night. And some of the best sprint car drivers from around Northeast Ohio, Western Pennsylvania, even some Central PA guys came over to race in the Speed Week. So the good thing for the Buckeye Bullet, Dave Blaney, with the rain out on Sunday and even without picking up a victory, he wins the points championship for the week, which comes with a $3,000 payday. Brother Dale finished second in points, 1 point over AJ Flick. So Dale picks up $2,500 for his 32B team. So really cool to see them back in action. Both of them ran really well at Sharon Speedway. They were all in contention throughout the week. And I know we had some of our listeners and friends that got to go out and watch them tear up some of the dirt tracks over this past week.
Yeah. We got some pictures from the Mariottis, Jerry and Kirsten, definitely contribute to a couple of photos, and they were there Saturday night. I actually ended up watching it Saturday night on Dirt Vision. Dave, and he wasn't even the hard charger. Somebody else had passed 11 cars, but Dave passed 10 cars in the feature, got the second. And I think at one point during the week itself, Dale might have been the hard charger of the whole thing. What was interesting about Sunday's event, Tri-City, was Dave didn't go to Tri-City. So Dale was there, and Dale was going to have, had a 1 point advantage. So if the weather would have held, it would have been a real great day for, him and AJ to race for the title. It's kind of funny because you mentioned, we were talking off air about how, Dave doesn't really, really wasn't worried about winning a championship. He probably Sunday wanted to make sure he watched his son race, so, the weather kind of like give him the championship, which was nice, but truthfully, he's won a lot of races in his career and won speed weeks at different places and different times. So I'm sure it wasn't vital, that he won it, but it would have been great if the weather would have cooperated to see Dale, because he had just as good a week as Dave had. Dale had a great week too. Pittsburgh Motor Speedway, Lernerville, Sharon Speedway, a great combination of tracks, only maybe an hour and a half apart from each other overall. So
congratulations to the two elder Blaney brothers. It was great to see them back in action, and they're kind of tuning up for the upcoming Lou Blaney Memorial that's coming up. It's sooner rather than later. And stay tuned to our show, to our social media channels, but because we'll definitely be getting people ready for the Lou Blaney Memorial this year, which if everything goes as planned, your reigning NASCAR Cup Series champion Ryan Blaney is going to be on hand at Sharon Speedway for this event. And I don't think he's been at a Lou Blaney Memorial in a few years. It's one of the biggest races of the year for Sharon Speedway, a great fundraiser as well for the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation. And it's also the races in memory of the late, great Lou Blaney, the patriarch of the Blaney racing family. So, like I said, stay tuned. A lot of cool stuff coming up when it comes to that race. And again, congrats to the Buckeye Bullet on his win in the Western PA Speedway Points Championship. So I think that pretty much wraps up this week's episode of the Team Blaney podcast. Thank you, everyone, once again for tuning in. If you want to interact with us on Facebook and X, you can find us at Team Blaney, and on Instagram and TikTok at Team.Blaney. We also like to encourage you to support the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation. Ryan's official charitable organization benefits brain health causes like UPMC Sports Medicine and the Alzheimer's Association. To learn more, visit RyanBlaneyFamilyFoundation.org or follow them on Facebook, X, and Instagram. So for my co-host Steve Mez, I'm Adam Rogers. We'll catch you next time on the Team Blaney podcast.
Good night, Montreal. Check out the TikTok.
Well, thanks everybody for coming. I hope you enjoyed it.